For decades, the conflict between Israel and Iran has been portrayed as a confrontation between two states separated by hundreds of kilometers. Yet, beneath the headlines, missile strikes, and diplomatic dispute lies a far more secretive battlefield. It is a battlefield fought not by armies but by spies, informants, hackers, saboteurs, and covert operatives. At the center of this shadow war stands Israel's intelligence agency, Mossad, an organization that many analysts believe has built one of the most sophisticated foreign intelligence networks ever established inside a hostile nation. Iran is not an easy target for espionage. The country maintains extensive internal security structures, powerful intelligence services, and the vast surveillance apparatus of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. Foreign operatives face immense risks. Discovery often means imprisonment or death. Yet, despite these obstacles, a series of extraordinary events over the past 2 decades has raised a troubling question for Iranian leadership. How deeply has Mossad penetrated the Islamic Republic? From mysterious explosions at military facilities to the assassinations of nuclear scientists and the theft of highly classified nuclear archives from the heart of Tehran, operation after operation has demonstrated an ability to strike sensitive targets with remarkable precision, and in each incident has suggested not only access to intelligence but also the existence of networks capable of gathering information, moving equipment, and executing complex missions within one of the most heavily guarded countries in the Middle East. The story of Mossad's presence inside Iran is not merely about espionage. It is a story about trust and betrayal, about how intelligence agencies recruit assets, infiltrate institutions, exploit vulnerabilities, and wage wars without formally declaring them. It is a story that reveals how modern conflicts increasingly occur in the shadows long before bombs begin to fall. And nowhere in this hidden struggle more visible than in the ongoing intelligence war between Israel and Iran. Segment 2: The origins of a long term intelligence campaign. The roots of Mossad's activities inside Iran stretch back far beyond the recent confrontations that dominate today's news. Before the 1979 Iranian Revolution, Israel and Iran were not enemies. Under Shah Mohammad Raza Pahlavi, the two countries maintained quiet but significant strategic cooperation. Intelligence agencies exchanged information, military officials communicated regularly, and both governments shared concerns about hostile regional powers. Everything changed when the Islamic Revolution overthrew the Shah and established a new regime under Ayatollah Ruhollah Khomeini. The new government defined Israel as a principal enemy and transformed opposition to Israel into a central pillar of its foreign policy. Diplomatic relations were severed. Cooperation ended, and a long period of hostility began. For Israeli planners, the revolution created a strategic challenge unlike any they had faced before. Iran was large, populous, resource rich, and increasingly ambitious. Over time, Tehran developed missile programs, expanded its regional influence through proxy organizations, and pursued nuclear technologies that raised concerns in Israel and the West. Understanding Iran's intentions became a national security priority. Unlike neighboring countries where Israel could rely heavily on aerial surveillance or broader intelligence, Iran presented a far more difficult target. Its distance from Israel and the secrecy surrounding its military and nuclear programs meant that technical intelligence alone was insufficient. Human intelligence became essential. Mossad needed people on ground capable of providing access to facilities, documents, communications, and decision makers. Over the following decades, intelligence collection gradually evolved into something much larger. Instead of merely observing Iranian activities, Mossad reportedly began constructing networks designed to penetrate critical institutions, sources within government agencies, military organizations, industrial sectors, transportation networks, and scientific communities began increasingly valuable. Every piece of information contributed to a large picture of Iran's capabilities and vulnerabilities. In the early 21st century, intelligence gathering was no longer the sole objective. The mission had expanded towards disruption, sabotage, and active interference. What had begun as an effort to monitor a hostile state was evolving into one of the most ambitious covert campaigns in modern intelligence history. The stage was being set for operations that would astonish intelligence professionals around the world and expose how vulnerable even highly secure systems could ever be. No intelligence services can operate effectively inside a hostile country without local support. Contrary to popular imagination, Mossad doesn't field foreign countries with thousands of Israeli spies disguised as ordinary citizens. Modern intelligence operations depend primarily on recruiting local assets, people who already possess access, influence, knowledge, or mobility within the target nation. Inside Iran, potential recruits come from many different backgrounds. Some may be motivated by money, others may be driven by ideology, personal grievances, political opposition to the regime, ethnic tensions, career frustrations, or a desire to protect themselves and their families. Intelligence services rarely rely on a single motivation. Instead, there are countless vulnerabilities and incentives unique to each individual. Recruitment is often a slow process. A target may be observed for months or even years before any approach is made. Relationships are developed gradually through business contracts, academic exchanges, social interactions, and online communications. In many cases, individuals may initially provide seemingly harmless information without realizing they're entering an intelligence relationship. Over time, the requests become more valuable and more sensitive. Iran's vast size creates opportunities that smaller states do not face. The country contains major cities, remote provinces, industrial zones, border regions, ports, airports, military installations, and scientific facilities spread across enormous distance. Monitoring every movement, every individual is virtually impossible. Intelligence agencies exploit these gaps, building compartmentalized networks where each participant knows only a small part of the larger operation. Technology has further transformed espionage. Encrypted communications, satellite connectivity, hidden surveillance devices, cyber tools, digital dead drops allow information to move across borders without traditional face-to-face meetings. A source inside Iran can potentially transmit photographs, documents, locations, or technical data within seconds to handlers thousands of kilometers away. The effectiveness of these methods became increasingly apparent as Iran experienced a growing number of security breaches. Sensitive military facilities were photographed, nuclear activities appeared to be known in extraordinary detail. Senior officials and scientists seemed to be under continuous observation. For Iranian counterintelligence officers, the pattern was alarming. The incidents suggested that Mossad was not simply collecting information from outside Iran. It appeared to possess eyes and ears deep inside the country's most sensitive institutions. As suspicion grew, Iranian authorities launched repeated investigations and counterintelligence campaigns, yet despite arrests, interrogations, and public warnings, the breaches continued. Each successful operation reinforced a disturbing possibility. The network was larger, deeper, and more resilient than many had imagined. Segment 4: The Nuclear Scientists and the Message They Sent. The first major incident that Mossad's reach inside Iran had become extraordinarily sophisticated emerged through a series of targeted attacks against individuals connected to Iran's nuclear program. These operations were not random acts of violence. They appeared to be carefully planned missions designed to eliminate specific people while sending a strategic message to the Iranian leadership. Beginning in the late 2000s, several Iranian nuclear scientists were assassinated under mysterious circumstances. Some were killed by explosive devices attached to their vehicles. Others were targeted through their travel in Iran. The attacks demonstrated detailed knowledge of routines, routes, schedules, security procedures, and personal habits. Such information is difficult to obtain without extensive surveillance and local support. For intelligence professionals around the world, the most striking aspect was not merely that assassinations occurred, it is how precisely they were executed. Identifying a scientist is one thing. Tracking that individual continuously, understanding security arrangements, and choosing the optimal time and location and successfully escaping afterwards requires a highly capable operational network. The killings created immediate psychological effects. Scientists working on sensitive projects became aware that they might be under surveillance. Security agencies were forced to devote enormous resources to protection. Officials could no longer assume that classified programs remained hidden from foreign intelligence services. Fear itself became a strategic weapon. At the same time, the operations revealed an important characteristic of modern covert warfare. Traditional military power is designed to destroy infrastructure and armies. Intelligence operations can target knowledge, expertise, and decision making. By focusing on key individuals rather than large facilities, an intelligence service can disrupt projects while minimizing the scale of open conflict. Iran responded by strengthening security around scientific personnel and increasing counterintelligence measures. Investigations were launched to identify possible collaborators. Internal security agencies searched for leaks within research institutions, military organizations, and government departments, yet the uncertainty remained. The attack suggested that information was flowing out of highly sensitive environments despite these efforts. Whether every reported operation was directly conducted by Mossad, assisted by local assets, or supported by other intelligence partners remains a subject of debate among analysts. What is less disputed is the broader impact. The assassinations demonstrated that hostile intelligence services could identify and reach individuals at the heart of some of Iran's most closely guarded programs. For many observers, these incidents marked a turning point. Mossad was no longer viewed merely as an organization gathering intelligence on Iran. It was increasingly perceived as an active participant in a covert campaign capable of influencing events in the country itself. The shadow war was becoming more aggressive, and even larger operations were still to come. While the assassinations captured international attention, another operation was unfolding largely out of public view. Unlike traditional espionage missions, this attack didn't rely on explosive firearms or covert teams moving through cities. Instead, it relied on computer code. It would become one of the most influential intelligence operations of the 21st century and fundamentally change how governments viewed cyber warfare. At the center of this story was Iran's nuclear enrichment facility at Natanz, one of the country's most important nuclear sites. Deep within the complex, thousands of centrifuges spun at extremely high speeds, enriching uranium for Iran's nuclear program. The facility was heavily protected and isolated from public internet, making conventional cyber attacks difficult. Yet, sometime around 2010, a sophisticated computer worm known as the Stuxnet infiltrated the facility. Unlike ordinary malware, Stuxnet was designed with a specific industrial target in mind. It secretly manipulated the centrifuges' operating speeds while simultaneously feeding false information to monitoring systems. Engineers believed everything was functioning normally even as equipment was being damaged from within. The result was remarkable. Centrifuges malfunctioned, failed unexpectedly, and had to be replaced. Iran's nuclear program experienced significant disruption without a single airstrike being launched against the facility. The attack demonstrated that software could achieve strategic effects previously associated with only military operations. Although governments involved never fully acknowledged responsibility, investigations by journalists, cybersecurity researchers, and intelligence analysts widely concluded that the operation was developed through cooperation between Israel and American intelligence agencies. If true, it represented a new model of covert action where cyber capabilities were integrated directly into national security strategy. For Mossad, the operation highlighted the growing importance of combining human intelligence with technological expertise. Malware alone cannot identify the exact configuration of secret industrial systems. Detailed information about equipment, software, procedures, and facility layouts must often come from human sources or physical reconnaissance. The success of Stuxnet suggested that intelligence collection inside Iran had reached an extraordinary level of detail. The psychological impact was quite significant. Iranian officials now faced an uncomfortable reality. Threats could emerge not only from spies, drones, and sabotage teams, but from the invisible lines of code. Even highly secure facilities could potentially be compromised through hidden vulnerabilities. The battlefield had expanded into cyberspace, where geography offered little protection. For intelligence agencies around the world, Stuxnet became a case study in modern covert warfare. It showed how espionage, cyber operations, strategic objectives could be combined into a single campaign. More importantly, it revealed that the struggle between Mossad and Iran was no longer confined to gather information. It had evolved into a sophisticated effort to disrupt, delay, and undermine some of the Islamic Republic's most important national projects without triggering a full-scale conventional war. If the assassination demonstrated operational reach and Stuxnet revealed technological sophistication, the theft of Iran's nuclear archive showcased something even more extraordinary: the ability to penetrate the heart of a highly protected intelligence target and physically remove some of its most sensitive secrets. In early 2018, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu stunned the world by unveiling thousands of documents, photographs, digital files that Israel claimed had been taken directly from a secret Iranian archive in Tehran. The material allegedly detailed aspects of Iran's past nuclear weapons research and planning. The story behind the operation quickly became the subject of fascination among intelligence professionals. According to accounts that later emerged, the archive was stored inside a warehouse that Iranian authorities believed was secure. The collection contained tens of thousands of pages and digital files. Removing such a vast quantity of material was not simply a matter of breaking into a building. It required identification of the location, understanding security procedures, monitoring guard routines, accessing the facility, and extracting specific materials and transporting them out of Iran without detection. Each state presented enormous challenges. Intelligence agencies spent years trying to locate hidden archives even after location is identified. Gaining access often proves impossible, yet in this case the operation reportedly succeeded in acquiring an immense volume of highly sensitive material and moving it beyond Iran's border. What made the incident particularly significant was that it implied about Mossad's intelligence network. The operation suggested access to detailed internal information about the archive's existence and location contents, as well as security arrangements. Such knowledge rarely comes from satellite imagery alone. It typically comes from human sources, technical surveillance, or a combination of both. For Iranian authorities, the implication was deeply troubling. If a foreign intelligence service could locate and remove one of the country's most sensitive collections of documents, what other facilities had been compromised? What officials could now be trusted? How many sources were operating inside the critical institutions? The archive theft also revealed a recurring pattern in the shadow war between Iran and Israel. Success was rarely the result of a single daring mission. Instead, it reflected years of preparation, intelligence gathering, recruitment, surveillance, logistics, planning, operational execution. All had to function together. The dramatic theft visible to the world was merely the final stage of a much longer process hidden beneath the surface. Among intelligence historians, the operation is often compared to some of the most famous espionage achievements of the Cold War. It demonstrated that even in an era dominated by satellites, cyber tools, and artificial intelligence, human intelligence remained indispensable. Documents still had to be found, secrets still had to be stolen, and networks still had to be built patiently over many years before a single spectacular operation could take place. For many years, most discussion about Mossad's activities inside Iran were based on isolated incidents, intelligence leaks, educated speculation. Then came the events of 2025, when the open conflict between Israel and Iran exposed just how far covert preparations may have advanced inside the Islamic Republic. As military operations intensified, reports emerged that Israeli intelligence assets had been active inside Iran before the first major strikes were launched. According to Israeli accounts and subsequent media reports, covert teams had helped identify targets and monitor missile deployments, assist operations against air defense system and missile launchers. Some reports even suggested that drones and specialized equipment had been positioned inside Iranian territory in advance of the conflict. What made these claims so significant was not merely the tactical damage inflicted on Iranian military asset, rather it was the implication that the intelligence preparation had been underway for months or even years before the conflict became public. Effective military targeting requires detailed information about location, movements, communications, command structures, and defensive capabilities. Such intelligence is rarely collected overnight. The conflict highlighted a principle that intelligence professionals have long understood. Wars are often won or lost before the first fire is shot. Before the first shot is fired, The side that possesses superior information enters the battlefield with a substantial advantage. Every missile launcher identified, every radar location mapped, every command facility monitored reduces uncertainty and increases operational effectiveness. Iranian authorities responded with warnings about infiltration and espionage. Citizens were encouraged to report suspicious activities, unusual equipment, unfamiliar individuals, and potential collaborators. Security forces intensified investigations into possibly intelligence leaks. The scale of the response reflected concerns that foreign intelligence networks might have achieved a deeper level of penetration than previously acknowledged. For observers around the world, the conflict provided a rare glimpse into how intelligence and military operations have been increasingly interconnected. Modern warfare no longer begins when aircraft takes off or missiles are launched. It begins years earlier through surveillance, recruitment, intrusions, data collection, and covert preparation. Intelligence services shaped the battlefield long before conventional forces arrived. As the dust settles, one question continued to haunt Iranian security planners. If operations that became public represented only the visible portion of the network, how much remained hidden? Every successful intelligence operation creates an equal and opposite reaction. As evidence of foreign infiltration accumulates, Iran's security establishment launched an increasingly aggressive campaign to identify, disrupt, and eliminate suspected espionage networks operating within the country. For Iranian intelligence services, this became one of the most important national security challenges of the modern era. The responsibility of defending against foreign intelligence threats falls across multiple organizations, including the Ministry of Intelligence, the intelligence branches of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. These agencies possess extensive surveillance powers, broad investigative authority, and significant resources dedicated to counter-espionage. Their mission is straightforward, in theory, but extraordinarily difficult in practice. Identify hidden networks before they can cause damage. The challenge lies in the nature of espionage itself. Successful intelligence networks are designed to remain invisible. Operatives use compartmentalization, meaning that individuals know only a small portion of the larger operation. Communications are concealed. Meetings are minimized. Operation flows through multiple channels. If one participant is arrested, the broader network can often survive. Iran has periodically announced arrests of alleged Mossad agents and collaborators. State media has reported the seizure of equipment, weapons, communication devices, and intelligence materials. Some suspects have been accused of gathering information on military facilities, nuclear sites, or government officials. Others have allegedly participated in sabotage operations or assisted foreign intelligence services with logistics and surveillance. Yet, each new arrest has often been accompanied by another security breach somewhere else. Facilities continue to suffer mysterious incidents. Sensitive information continues to appear in foreign hands. Military and scientific programs continue to experience disruptions. This recurring pattern has fueled debate within Iran about the effectiveness of existing counterintelligence measures. One of the greatest difficulties for any security service is distinguishing genuine threats from false leads. Excessive suspicion can damage institutions, create internal mistrust, and divert resources away from real dangers. Insufficient vigilance, however, allows adversaries to expand their networks. Intelligence agencies constantly balance these competing risks, and mistakes on either side can prove costly. The situation becomes even more complicated when technology enters the equation. Modern espionage doesn't require every participant to meet in person. Digital communications, encrypted platforms, remote surveillance systems, cyber intrusions, and anonymous financial transfer make detection increasingly difficult. A network may span multiple countries, leaving only minimal physical evidence behind. For Iran, the counterintelligence battle has evolved into a contest of endurance. Every security measure produces new adaptations by intelligence networks. Every arrest generates new recruitment methods. Every exposed operation encourages more sophisticated concealment techniques. This is a continuous cycle of action and reaction that has persisted for decades. The struggle reveals an uncomfortable reality about modern intelligence warfare. Perfect security doesn't exist. Even the most powerful states equipped with extensive intelligence and surveillance systems remain vulnerable to infiltration. The intelligence war inside Iran has become more than a regional contest between two adversaries. It has evolved into a case study for intelligence agencies around the world. Military academies, security analysts, and intelligence professionals increasingly view the Mossad-Iran confrontation as an example of how espionage is changing in the 21st century. During the Cold War, intelligence operations only focused on stealing documents, recruiting officials, and gathering political or military information. Success was measured by what an agency knew. In the modern era, success is increasingly measured by what an agency can do with that knowledge. Intelligence services are no longer passive observers. They have become active instruments of of shaping events directly. The operation attributed to Mossad demonstrates this transformation superbly. Human intelligence, cyber capabilities, surveillance technologies, artificial intelligence, satellite imagery, drone systems, covert action have become integrated into a single operational framework. Information collected through one channel can immediately support actions through another. This distinction between intelligence gathering and operational execution had become increasingly blurred. Another important lesson is the value of patience. Many of the most important intelligence operations are not measured in days or weeks, but in years. Networks must be built carefully, sources must be recruited gradually, trust must be cultivated. Technical capabilities must be positioned long before they are needed. This spectacular operation visible to the public is often the final result of a decade of preparation hidden from view. The conflict has also demonstrated the growing importance of precision. Rather than relying on large-scale military attacks, modern intelligence operatives and operations only focus on critical nodes, communication network, logistic hub, or a decision maker can have a strategic importance disproportionate to its size. By targeting these nodes, intelligence agencies can achieve significant effects while minimizing broader escalation. For governments worldwide, the implications are profound. National security can no longer be viewed solely through the lens of military strength. Tanks, aircrafts, missiles, warships remain important, but information has become equally valuable. A nation that cannot protect its secrets, communications, and internal institutions may find itself vulnerable, regardless of its conventional military power. The Iranian experience has therefore become a warning as much as a case study. It illustrates how persistent intelligence pressures can influence military planning, scientific development, political decision making, and national morale. The battlefield extends far beyond the physical borders and often remains invisible until the consequences become impossible to ignore. When historians examine the confrontation between Israel and Iran, they may eventually conclude that the most important battles were fought in the skies above the Middle East or through the missile exchanges reported on international news networks. The decisive struggle may instead be remembered as a war conducted in silence, hidden beneath layers of secrecy, deception, and intelligence operatives and operations. The story of Mossad's presence inside Iran reveals how modern power increasingly depends on information. Knowing where a missile is stored, which scientist is leading a sensitive project, how a military command structure operates, or where critical documents are hidden can sometimes produce greater strategic effects than the deployment of conventional military force. Intelligence has become a weapon in its own right. Throughout this story, a recurring pattern emerges: assassinations, cyber attacks, sabotage operations, archive thefts, intelligence leaks, covert preparations were isolated events. They formed part of a broader campaign designed to understand, penetrate, disrupt, influence a hostile state from within. Whether every reported operation occurred exactly as described remains a matter of future historians. But the cumulative evidence points to one undeniable reality. Intelligence has become one of the central arenas of the Israel-Iran rivalry. For Iran, the challenge extends beyond defending physical facilities or military assets. The deeper challenge is preserving trust within institutions, protecting sensitive information, and maintaining confidence that critical systems may not have not been compromised. Intelligence warfare attacks not only infrastructure but also certainty itself. Every unexplained incident creates suspicion. Every security breach raises questions. Every successful infiltration forces organizations. Every successful infiltration forces organizations to reconsider what they truly know about their own vulnerabilities. For Israel, the campaign demonstrates the strategic value of a long term intelligence investment. Networks built over decades can provide advantages that become visible only during moments of crisis. Information gathered patiently over many decades can suddenly shape military operations, diplomatic decisions, and national security outcomes. Perhaps the most important lesson is that the shadow war never truly ends. Intelligence services do not wait for conflicts to begin. They operate continuously, collecting information, recruiting sources, testing defenses, and preparing for future contingencies. The operations that become public are often only fragments of a much larger and mostly unseen reality. And this is what makes the story of Mossad in Iran so compelling. It is not a tale. It is not simply a tale of spies and secret mission. It is a glimpse into the hidden mechanism of modern power, where information is currency, secrecy is armor, and the most consequential battle are often fought far from public view, long before governments announce victories or defeats. The outcome may already have been shaped by people whose names will never appear in history books and whose actions will remain classified for generations.